Testing 1 2 1 2. I think we have sound. I think we are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. We are live on Facebook. I think we got a show on our hands. Welcome to House Culture Conversations, and our guest today is Timocious. How are you, Timocious?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing much better now. I look forward to these conversations, especially as we've spent time in the virtual world, but we really don't know a lot about each other. And the beautiful thing about this platform is it gives us a place and space to get introduced, not only you and I, but also to the broader Twitch community. So, as we get ourselves together and the fam comes on in, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. Been a great day. Was able to go out and spend a little bit of time with my mother today and
Ah,
hang out with her. So that was a nice kind of change of pace. Usually I don't do that on Saturdays. I'll usually go and visit like a once a week kind of thing during the week. And so yeah, that was something extra kind of special to do today.
nothing like spending time with mom. It's been a long time. My mom passed a while ago, but I always cherish moments. That's my jam is in the building. She says, always appreciate you.
Thank you
And
so
there are,
much.
yeah, some many people starting to come in and they will be showing up in comments and all of those things. Hey, thanks for the love as well. That's my jam. Good to see you. Happy Saturday. So tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about just your background.
So actually, I'm from it's kind of a small town called Chippewa. We're actually technically part of Niagara Falls, but we like to think of ourselves as a little bit different and a little bit set apart. If you've ever been to Niagara Falls, you'd probably be familiar with Marineland, and it kind of separates basically Niagara Falls from Chippewa. We're just kind of on the other side of Marineland from the main part of the city. So it's always been this little small town that's been kind of special, small knit kind of community. I'm about fourth generation here, so lots of family roots. And growing up was one of those things you could never get away with anything. There was always somebody around somewhere that knew your parents, and you would never ever be able to get away with pulling anything off. Um, it was always just that small knit kind of community kind of feel. Even like I was born in late 70s, so growing up in the 80s and early 90s, and it was always that kind of feel. It's grown a little bit since then, and I'm actually still in that same small town now. But
Wow. That's what you
yeah,
call rooted. That's what you call rooted. So
yeah,
did you get? So did you
absolutely.
grow up around music, a musical family?
I mean, we weren't necessarily terribly musical in that there wasn't a whole lot of musical artists in the family. My grandmother played piano, and my brother played guitar. But there was always music playing. There was always something going on. Having Saturday and Sunday morning family breakfast. There was always a Beatles album on, something kind of to play it through. And waking up for your birthday, it was always Birthday by the Beatles. It just cranked as loud as possible to wake you up, and the family comes running in with breakfast in bed, and was always kind of a musical based thing, even though we weren't necessarily artists, but always a huge part of life for sure.
Now, when did you get introduced to house? Because obviously, when we were small, it wasn't on the scene necessarily just yet. When did house really come on the scene for you?
For me, I was probably into alt music at the time when I first kind of started getting into that transition, and had been taken out to a party by my older brother. Was in Toronto, and went out and get introduced to this my first rave. And
Mm.
he's trying to tell me beforehand a little bit of what to expect, and nothing could really prepare me for the experience. It was just nothing like I expected, nothing like I could possibly have imagined based on the stories. and was certainly one of those life-changing kind of experiences that was just like, well, this is kind of it, like it was a lot of trance that night and techno and that kind of feel. And that was really the electronic music that I first kind of got into. And then making that transition into house per se, I had gone out to another party. It was called Dose Summer of Love. It was 1996 in August. One of the hottest environments I've ever been in my entire life. It was just sweat like crazy, and the floor was covered in this industrial grease. So you could dance and slide around like crazy, and everything felt kind of really cool like that. But man, were you filthy by the time you came out of this place. It was just everybody that was walking out of this old warehouse was just covered in this stuff, dirty as all heck. And it was Dub Tribe and Kashmir. Dub Tribe doing a live performance that night. And it just was one of those things, was again kind of a life-changing thing where it was like, well, this is the music. This is what makes sense. This is what I kind of carried forward from there. And just from that day forward, I've been a house junkie.
Dream Maker Diva said, "We're looking youthful." So good to see you, Dream Maker Diva. Welcome on in. Timocious in the house. House Culture Conversations. That is a very interesting. Two things I often hear. I wasn't old enough to get into the party, but my older brother, or I hung out with these older folks that got me in, and it's just an experience that changed their life. Uh, you know, the ability to see something that one you weren't of age just yet, so it even made it more,
Yeah,
it heightens it, for you, because I know I snuck into plenty of parties, and it's just this feeling, it's like I'm not even supposed to be here, this is great,
right.
but I've heard
Absolutely.
so many people mention rave, and they say once they went to a rave, yeah, it took them just on a totally different trajectory musically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess I kind of got into it right around the era where it was starting to shift from that kind of old warehouse, broken down, kind of crazy place, and starting to kind of get into the actual club environment where things are a little bit more controlled and a little bit safer for people. And like actual proper fire plans and things like that that kind of kept you safe. But those experiences kind of getting started with that was absolutely a life-changing kind of thing, and so glad to have been part of that whole experience. Not many people getting into it much after that got that experience. It was all kind of a changed thing by then.
So when did the DJing kick in?
So when I first kind of started going to parties, it was again with my older brother and a bunch of his friends, and several of his friends were DJs. So of course you kind of get a little bit intrigued, like how do you do what you do, and you're kind of wanting to hang out and like, that seems so cool. What, how do you do all that? And um, tried to pick it up a few times from that. We'd throw parties back at our place again. Mom and dad would go away, and we would take all the breakables from around the house and put them all in this one room and keep them all safe so that nothing would get wrecked or anything like that while people were over. And we'd make sure everything was all put back nice and safe before everybody got back home. But we'd have these little parties, and that was kind of my first few things DJing. First starting off with equipment that didn't even have pitch shift or anything like that. So trying to use the breaks in the music and the way things kind of flowed to make your mixes work without being able to beat match. And then the first few times getting records and jumping onto vinyl turntables where you're able to do some proper pitch shift and control things a little bit better, and finding out that, man, this just sounds like a whole whack of tennis balls in a dryer, and it just being an absolute train wreck. And I got my first little lesson. Actually, my only real lesson ever was about 30 seconds. This one friend of my brother's who finally couldn't stand the tennis balls in the dryer anymore while I'm playing. He comes up and, okay, here's the story. You're just going to start here, move halfway, jump slower, faster, and just keep going. Break it down into half sections all the way along the slider. Get that to match up and just roll the long, like kind of taught that basics of beat match. And that was all I ever got in the way of a lesson. That was all I ever needed. And from there on, it was all just kind of learned by ear and rolling on along.
Hey, what's happening? It's the Candy Lady is in the building. How are you? So good to see you. We got our Thrive family in the building, showing big love and
Welcome,
support
fam.
for Timocious on House Culture Conversations. So, okay, you're learning how to DJ, and as you said, you got exposed to a lot of electronic music. But I listened to your sets, and you've got a lot more of a funky vibe, a funky house vibe. How has that evolved?
Uh, I think a lot of that is a little bit of that whole evolving in aging, to be honest. Like a lot of my earlier stuff when I first started out was a lot harder house and a lot more kind of just sheer electronic sounds. Um, Significantly more kind of up tempo banging kind of stuff. And then over the years, it's as much as I've always really enjoyed the whole jazz thing, and it's been a big influence even in the earlier stages. There was definitely jazz kind of sounds and that kind of thing in it, but certainly nowhere near as prevalent as the way it is in what I play now. But as I've gotten older, I've turned more to that jazzy sound as an overall feel, and it just has really developed into the sound that I try to play as much as possible. And that funky kind of twist has always just been is something I really enjoy about house. Um, and there's so many different parts to that kind of sound that work really well with each other, and you get that kind of jam feel that's always been part of jazz right from the beginnings of it, right?
Yeah.
So I like the way that that kind of plays together, and that it allows me to work my style of mixing to really kind of play off of that same kind of feel as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you think house has continued to thrive and go all over the world and have many different flavors and genres 40 years later now?
I really think a lot of it speaks to just the sheer volume of kind of subgenres and feels to house music. There is any kind of house or any kind of music that you listen to growing up, or any kind of music that really hits well with you and hits a vibe with you, there is a house music that carries that same kind of vibe in some way or form. And everybody can find something in house music that really hits well with them, whether it be a vocal thing, it be an instrumentally kind of thing. There's plenty of salsa and lots of Spanish influence if that's your kind of feel. Anything at all. Lots of um, gospel and anything that kind of hits with anyone. There's always something there for you. And again, where I kind of talked about the whole aging with house and how that's kind of changed where my tastes are per se. I find that that seems to have changed a lot with a lot of the people that I know and have spoken with. They started off playing something a lot different than where they're at kind of currently if they've
Yeah.
been playing for a long time. And it's just that developing of taste that sure you take what your original feels were and you really love that kind of thumping thing of house where it's got that solid four on the floor that keeps us all kind of bumping along, but you can bring along whatever new vibes that have influenced you along the way and find a new sound that just keeps it new and fresh no matter what.
Yes, Candy Lady says evolution.
Yeah,
Evolution
absolutely.
is so true. It's funny as you were talking about house music. I wonder if it's safe to say house music truly is a spiritual thing. And what I mean by that is that it truly is universal. I can think about music, different music genres, and I start saying, "Nah, that's not really universal." No, it close, but nah, that music is for this group. Other groups kind of enjoy it, but it centers
Mhm.
around this group. But house, truly, to me, blesses us all and is available to us all. It, there's different corners and niches of it, but whenever we get together around house, it's truly is a spiritual, unique experience. Come one, come on. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I couldn't agree with that more. Little tiny experiences that you have throughout life with being a house music enthusiast, where you run into it in places where you don't expect and with people that you don't expect. And the experiences that you end up having with those people, or the experiences you hear of through them, that again are often kind of life changing, and or they alter the way that you look at life and you look at people, and the experiences that you want to have with people. It's such a positive overall vibe for the most part. And like I remember at one point going up to a Blue Jays game with a coworker who's someone that I did had probably had three phone conversations with in my entire career there, and really have no connection with this guy whatsoever. We're on our way up. We, have basically nothing to talk about the whole way along, kind of going up there and just a little bit of kind of chatter about the Jays game and get through the game. Had, a glass of wine or two perhaps, and kind of heading home, and he's talking about house music. And it's just like, well, why weren't we talking about this the whole bloody time, man? And he'd gotten into it through his son had kind of just gotten him into it randomly, and he absolutely loved the whole kind of feel of it, that absolute positivity and great beat, and like this will keep us up, it's such a great thing. Let's go. And yeah, it was just such a strange kind of thing where I had never expected that to be the overall experience with this guy. Just nothing about his overall demeanor or anything in the first place would ever lead you to think that.
Yeah.
And yet, here's another absolute enthusiast who just wanted to talk about house music. It was a
Right.
great, great time.
I like to say, let people know you love house music, and you probably made a new friend. I can't tell you how many people I've just mentioned that I'm from Chicago, and when I say, I DJ house music, this stuff like that, and they go, "Oh, I know that. I know that."
Awesome.
Jack Master Funk or something else. I say that's close, good enough, good enough. We'll give it to you. Disco
Awesome.
Darren, what's happening? Hey, everybody, make sure that we got the return of disco next week. Y'all be ready for that. It's so good. Thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. We are hanging out with Timocious on House Culture Conversations. So, okay, we've talked about Canada a few times with some different other guests, and I'm curious your perspective of the house scene in Canada versus the U.S. I don't know if you can compare and contrast, but curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot of contrast necessarily. I think there's a lot of crossover and a lot of similarity from my experiences more than I really anticipated. Having spoken with so many people through Twitch and gotten into that kind of whole conversation about where lots of other people started and everything, their experiences seem to be very similar overall to a lot of the experiences through the Canadian people that I've talked to. Um, it's so much based around the plur, peace, love, unity, respect, that kind of embrace the whole community. And it's very much kind of the thing that people, I guess, through our age group coming up through house music starting, I guess, in the 90s or in the 80s, really, and then through the 90s for me and into the 2000s. It was one of those things that just it made you feel at home. It made you feel like you were embraced by a community, that you had friends that understood you no matter how kind of maybe strange you felt amongst the normal kind of environment. Um, and it just was one of those things that you felt like you could be yourself no matter what. And that really was something that I think a lot of people were looking for at the time. And it's really what the basis of the community kind of had been. Um, so then being in a small town that's kind of within a couple hour drive of Toronto, I was, I guess, kind of spoiled, but at the same time, like you're not going to go up to Toronto all the time, so you start throwing little parties and things like that that are kind of little local things. But you go up to Toronto, and it's absolutely world class talent that was coming through there on a like nightly kind of basis. You could go up on a random Tuesday and catch Derrick Carter coming through and dropping epic sets, or Mark Farina on a random Thursday, and just things were so magical that you could come through and have such a top-notch house music experience in such a close kind of place. And then the effect that that had on the local artists was really absolutely profound and awesome. It had so much great house music coming up out of Toronto and up out of really all across Canada. I know Vancouver has a huge scene, and Edmonton and Calgary, and like really all of the major cities kind of across the country have all got their scenes and have all done really great things. And I don't want to knock any one of them by any means, but just Toronto being the one that I grew up near, it's the one that I can speak to most, right?
Yeah,
But
well, I tell you what, the sincerity in your conveyance is compelling, and I will say that house is house everywhere. The vibe, the feeling. Sure, there's certain Chicago house, East Coast. Yeah, everybody's got their little flair or whatever you want to call it. But wherever you go, you can tell true house heads. You can tell true house enthusiasts, as you said before, and it's really demonstrates the power of house music, and it's what I've told people before. It's if you get it, you get it, and so anyway, you tugged at my heart right there. But anyway, DJ Pablo Goodell, what's happening? Thanks for vibing with us, Pablo. Good to see you. We are hanging out with Timocious House Culture Conversations. So there are a lot of streamers that I've been introduced to from Canada on Twitch. How do you think Twitch has impacted the culture?
oh, it's been massive, like really. I know it kind of predates the pandemic, but for me, the pandemic is really when it kind of started for me getting on there. And it was little things like actually going in to watch Mark Farina stream and being able to kind of catch that live, and that being something that was something that was positive and great to be able to experience when there's nothing going on in the way of live music, and there's nothing, you were stuck in the house and couldn't go anywhere, and it was this little ray of sunshine, being able to catch some great music. And then catching on that, say, DJ Heather was on there and hanging out in streams of hers, and meeting guys like Frank Amoto and the rest of the Disco crew, Frank or FU Media, Philly Phil, and Simo. All of those kind of guys were all amazing. Mr. Latin House, all kind of met through that. And Jenden ATX actually was one of the big people that I met through there, that was a massive influence on me getting streaming. Um, but you meet all these kind of really great people that are all around full of positive vibes, loving the house music. And once you started kind of into streaming and talking to more of the people, it's just such an incredibly positive experience back, and you meet all of these wonderful people that are all across the planet you would never ever have the opportunity to sit and have a conversation with, let alone do so on a regular basis and become friends with. And it just is such an incredibly overwhelmingly positive experience. It literally has changed my life for sure. I had given up on DJing for years, had given up probably in the later double O's. And again, like Jen Den ATX was this one friend who streamed a whole bunch. I'd kind of hung out with her a bit and pushed me stream, stream, stream. No, 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 that's not me. I'm never going to do that. That's just not who I am. Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. That's cool. Stream, 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 stream. Okay, I'm going to do one, maybe two. That's it. It'll appease her and I'll be done. And, honestly, now I can't fathom not streaming. It just is this overwhelmingly positive experience, and the people that you meet and the other DJs and the great music that you come across through all of these other great DJs that you wouldn't hear anywhere else unless you're out of the club all the time. And again, like the likelihood that you're going to run into that kind of variety on a regular basis to go out and hang with a DJ from Germany tomorrow, and or I mean right now, and then say in an hour we're going to raid on over to Hawaii and then off to Japan and back to the States and back to Canada. And it's just such a great experience to meet all these wonderful people. And really, where else do you have that environment? Where else do you have that much positivity within a community? It's, you look around on Facebook and it's not like that. You look around on Instagram and it's not like that. Any of those other kind of media environments, they're just, the positivity isn't like it is here. And it's just truly uplifting and life changing.
Well, hey, I tell you what, Disco Darren said you can tell a true disco head, and again, your sincerity just cuts through. It This means a lot to you. It really means a lot to you. It is a
Truly.
big deal for you, DJ Carlos Fuerte. What's happening? Welcome on in here,
Welcome,
Candy.
welcome.
Candy Lady picked up on your comment, community, and it is so true what you said. I mean, I didn't think much about streaming. I was encouraged to stream. Um, and interestingly enough, it has been a game changer. Just from the people, that I've been able to meet. Disco Darren went to a Catholic school in my city. He didn't go to my Catholic school. It's okay. We give him a pass on that. But we got connected on Twitch through his show, and it has just spawned us just staying connected and doing things. We got connected through your stream, which I want you to talk about, your programs and when you're on and all the different raid trains and different things that you're doing. You got a lot of cool stuff happening. We want to talk about that in a minute. Mount Carmel, here we go. we have a little bit of a rivalry going on. You got to put football in there. Okay.
Oh,
Anyway,
I love
it's
it.
a friendly fire, friendly fire. But we met and you were doing Ray Train, but then we have a stream that we do called the Thrive, and you have shown up there, and the energy and the positivity and just the love and again community has been just something that I look forward to. And if I can say anything about the culture, just when I was 16 years old, I looked forward to house. And now at 20 years old, I look forward to house.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so, so true. And like many songs, it doesn't age. None of it
That's right.
does. It's just, it's a house is a feeling, and that feeling is every bit as true today as it was the first day you heard it. It's just, when it's the vibe that turns you out, it's the vibe that turns you out for life.
There it is. Just go down. We're gonna have to talk about that football. We're gonna just have to get that straight once for all. But anyway, tell us when you're on, and thank you so much, Dreammaker Diva. We are looking young. It's the house music, y'all. Makes you dance like nobody's watching, sing like you're in your shower for a little while anyway. I do have some knee trouble after about an hour or two. But anyway, with that said, tell us a little bit about when you're on, your stream, your vibe.
Before we jump to that, though, like Thrive, I just wanted to touch on that, and that is one of those things that is it speaks to the unity and the community and the love and positivity that is the community as a whole. But it is like on full force show in Thrive, and it just is the single most positive way to start your day that I've experienced. I mean, I've obviously spent some time on the Twitch streets and tried to hang out with a couple of DJs. It's just a wonderful thing. I wish I could kind of take part in the chat a little bit more as it goes on. Unfortunately, I have to get off to work starting at 8. So basically, as
Right,
you're kind
right.
of finishing up, I'm off to work, but I get to listen in. And can't really take in the chat though, but it's just such a wonderful vibe and such a wonderful way to start the day. And I really appreciate you and all of the other DJs and all of the rest of the community that shows up there. It is so wonderful to chat with everybody in the morning and get the day started. And if you've had a rough week or things aren't going well, it turns things around. And I appreciate you all.
Hey, that's big appreciation. Sweet D Sauce in the building. I know you
Thank
guys are
you.
big fans and big friends. So good to see you, Sweet D Sauce.
Big love, fam. Good to see you.
So
Um,
when are you streaming and when can we catch you?
So upcoming stuff. Actually, I've got things a little bit quiet in the next week. I'm kind of trying to redo my laptop and kind of give it the old nuke. Actually, shortly after we're done this interview, I'm gonna hit the button and do the nuke thing and reset everything on that. But starting Saturday, I'll be back on with Battle of the Decades, doing a fundraiser for cancer. I believe it's PC4A. Um, it's always great. Great charities that Mr. Lattenhouse has for about all the decades. So it's actually ongoing as we speak, I believe, and going on for about a week and a day or so. But yeah, I'll be hopping in on that.
Who's
And
playing now? Do you know who's playing now?
at the moment, I'm not terribly sure, but I know I've got a flyer kicking around here. Um,
If you do, we'll raid out to them when we're done.
First. So at 7 p.m. So between 6 to 8 p.m. for Central Time, it's Tomas Diablo. Um,
How do you spell his Twitch
it
ID?
is TOMASDIABLO.
No space or anything in it.
No
All right,
space, no
we're gonna
underscore.
cue that up. So when are you regularly on?
So, to be honest, I haven't done much in the way of like a regular weekly spot in quite a long time. I started off kind of doing like a Wednesday thing, and I was doing a Saturday thing, and I found as I got into doing raid trains, I was blessed with being invited a rather lot, which made it one of those things where if I really wanted to partake in the raid trains as much as I do, it was one of those things that either my weekly thing I was going to have to incorporate it into trains or something, or I was going to have to kind of give up doing those kind of slots. So I've for the most part have given up on doing something regular, which is kind of unfortunate, but is something I've been giving consideration to maybe getting back into and trying to do something more regular. But for the meantime, I continue to be blessed by being rather busy doing raid trains and getting invites on the regular and doing a few monthly spots. So it's one of those things. It's a great problem to have being busy as a DJ, right?
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I couldn't
so
agree more. So everybody make sure you follow Timocious so you can get notified of when he's on. This has been fantastic. I'm going to load this raid up. Any last words for the folks in the chat?
well, actually, for sure, one thing coming up on June 28th, we've got something that Bob DM and I run together. It's called Sass and Brass. It is basically a bunch of jazzy, brassy, sassy kind of music for the day, and a bunch of great DJs that we've kind of invited along. It's kind of our project that we've been working on. That's going to be about a quarterly kind of thing to keep it special and different, but coming up on June 28th, some great DJs. Please keep your eye out for that. And to everybody that's here, thank you all so much. Thank you for being absolutely wonderful people, and to the community, just love and respect to you all. And I can't wait to see you all again soon.
Well, hey, let's go party with Thomas Diablo. And if your pockets are feeling a little heavy, let's throw some change in the hat and let's support the cause. Thank you guys. Those on Twitch, we're going to party. Everybody else, we'll see you soon.
Thank you again. I really, really appreciate the opportunity. It was such a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
Hey, you bet. Take care.
Take care.